We're back with the journey of an entrepreneur. So exciting. Part 2 on organizational strategy. As I shared with you last week, the importance of building a chart to be able to divide the responsibilities. And there were 3 departments, 3 key departments that all businesses should have, which is what? Marketing, operations, and accounting. With those 3, no matter if you are a mechanic or a restaurant, a doctor, a lawyer, an insurance agency, whatever type of business that you have, even a cleaning service, it doesn't matter. Those 3 departments are needed. Now, you might need some adjustments in the divisions under those categories. You might need more departments, so maybe a little bit less department. Some of you might not need a salesperson per se, but you need an advertising strategic person, someone that does the research for you. I'm excited because this is the beginning of how to get your business in a fundamentally way in order. And the more you have each department divided by category and what the expectations are of each department, it's easier to then hire a person that fits that department. Remember, you're not going to create roles based on people's personalities. You're going to create it on the results that you're looking for. So, you'll know that there's 2 different sections. They are the strategic planner and the tactical work. So in the beginning, when we started this series, we talked about how when we start a business, we treat it as a job, right? We treat it as a job, and we start to do the job that we want to do. For example, I sold insurance, and I only focused on that. I knew that I had to do accounting. I did some marketing, not so good. I didn't have a logo and have a slogan, all that good stuff. And most of us, if you are a chef, well, you cook. If you are a baker, you bake. But then you realize that the business needs a little bit more than just that. It needs all these other departments. And in order for it to flow, for each employee to know what their responsibilities are and what the expectations are, you have to create this. Now it takes work, a lot of work. You have to test it. Make sure that the script that you wrote for the salespeople is going to give you the results you're looking for. And if you're not going to have a script, then what are the expectations of those roles, right? Customer service, the sales department, the accounting department. When there's an issue with a customer, when there's a complaint department, how are you going to handle claims? You have to tell your staff member exactly how to handle it. Now here at Esther Inc., we don't always do it right, but we try to let the customer express their feelings without interruptions. We found that when a person is able to express themselves without being interrupted, when they finish, they almost sigh. You know, have you ever had someone really angry? Even in a relationship, right? You have an argument, and if the other person keeps interrupting, it just keeps scaling up. But when you let the customer express themselves, whatever the issues are, they can't afford the policy, they have a change, a shift has happened, there was a mistake on the policy, whatever it was, remember that it has nothing to do personally with you. You have to write that in your manual. You have to write that in your chart. How do you want your staff member how to handle the phone calls, the complaints, the sales, the accounting, anything that is created in your location? If you're a baker, are you going to divide all the roles into different departments? If you're a chef, are you going to prepare the food and somebody finishes decorating? Well, how does that look like? What is the expectation? You get what I'm saying? The more detailed you are, the better your business will grow. And aside from growing, you start to run it instead of being in it. This is why so many businesses start to dwindle or become plateau, because the owner is so in it. They don't have time to have visions, to see opportunities, to make it grow, because they're in the company. And what you want to do is be able to see the company. The business owners, yes, you start in it, and eventually you want to be able to see it globally. What's the situation? What is this department? What opportunities out there? And if you don't do that, you can't grow. And you're never going to have the lifestyle that you wanted. So, 2 departments, no matter what the roles are, 2 behaviors, strategic planners and the tactical work. So the fun begins, right? So earlier we talked about how to innovate and quantify. We talked about how to make sure that the business that what you're developing is going to get you the results that you want, and creating results. But the fact is that the end in mind is to have the business that works with purpose and order, with a sense of direction, balance, integrity, and most importantly, intention. What is the intention? What is the vision of your business? What is the mission? What is the final goal? And does every employee know this? Are they consistent with what you're looking for? So, you know, in Jim Collins, which is one of my other favorite books, whether Good to Great or Built to Last, he always talked about building a business that runs like clock. Same thing with the E-Myth, you know, making a business as a turnkey operation. At the end of the day, whatever business you're in, you have to make sure that the business can run without you. This weekend, I was away at the insurance convention, and one of the gentlemen that were talking about, you know, business interruption, all these insurance stuff that we talk about, we're saying that if you don't build a business, if your customer doesn't build a business that is worth selling later on, you get a fraction of the money if it's dependent on you. So if the goal is to have a nice retirement in the future, this is important. To give your business value. If you don't build it this way, when you're trying to sell it later on, instead of making the money that you want to make, people will only pay you a fraction. You know why? Because you're not going to be there. So see, if you're the only piece that makes it work, then it has not much value when you're no longer there. So think about that when you're creating this business. Even for that, for your future, for your retirement, for your lifelong dreams of when you get older. Or if you want to be like me, I want to retire in 10 years. That's old, but not old enough. Anyway, some of the things that I think that are key for when you're preparing, right? It's also knowing, well, who will be my potential buyer? And who's my competition as of right now? What are they doing different than I'm doing? You know, am I priced the correct way? You know, how are we selling comparing to other people in our industry, right? Also testing what you're going to price. You know, many of us get into a business, like let's say a product business, and we don't know we have no idea what to charge. You know, someone said to me, I'm going to open an income tax preparation office in Newark, and the minimum I'm going to charge is $100. And I said, good luck, sweetheart, because that's not going to happen. So you have to know where you are. So we're going to talk about the organizational chart, right? And then we talk about the workflow, but then you have to make sure that what you're doing is actually working. It's actually giving you the results. And in order to do that, you have to test it and compare it. Test and measure. That's the key. Test and measure. What's the result that it's giving you? So anyway, today is going to be very, very short because I wanted to end the second part. And I wanted to make sure that you understand that the workflow, the organizational chart, is to create workflow. And if you don't have workflow, your staff cannot come in and tell you what to do. You need to tell them what to do, what the expectations are to get the results that you're looking for. And aside from that, give you the freedom as to why you started this business. Have a fantastic day. This is Esther Tanez. See you next week with management, which is very important. We're going to hit management and people. One of the most difficult part for a business owner, especially if you've never hired in the past. Make sure you follow us on YouTube. If you like, please hit like and share. See you next week. This is Esther.